One it, please.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day. The old familiar carols played, and mild and sweet their songs repeat.
Yeah, don't be like that. Yeah, don't copy
Peace on earth, doing well to men.
I stole it from somebody else, so.
And the bells are ringing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Like a choir singing.
Throw me off right off the bat.
In my heart I hear them.
We already got to take a break.
I thought we were here to talk about county stuff.
Yeah, let's sing it out.
This mouse is giving me hell. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show.
Yeah. 72-ish,
Yeah, 72-ish.
I think.
Whiskey
it is.
Bros around the table. Last week's show with Dr. Lynn Stuckey was a great success. So
Yeah, it was.
we thought we would follow it up with an even greater celebrity of ours here, County Judge J.D. Clark. Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
being here.
Glad to be here.
It's actually, we kind of have like two special guests.
Well, yes, we do. I forgot about that. If you move the camera screen over here,
I wish we'd get over there and get on the drums real quick.
the infamous
Drum
Ghost Bro.
Ghost Bro.
Ghost Bro in the house, everybody. Taking the place of the
Doc.
missing Doc tonight. But
Yeah.
yeah, Ghost Bro in the
Poor
house.
Doc, he's on a cruise.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, poor Doc.
Hey, buddy, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's great to finally be here.
Yeah, first time you ever been on video.
Probably.
No, it is. Oh, I meant with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that one video you made in
Yeah,
college.
we can't show nobody that one though.
Yeah.
Watch out, they're queuing up my stuff. So
Yeah.
yours too. So
Yeah, we've already done one with you.
All right, Judge. Well, thanks for being here. I hope we can make this as fun as possible for you. 'Cause
Yeah, no.
the mission of this is to not be a political debate or go on about opponents or just giving information to the greater public and your constituents that have put you in office, what exactly you do, what is the role of county judge,
yeah, absolutely.
so on and so on. But yeah, not to get heated or get into debates, anything like that. Just to have a good show about your history, what you've accomplished, what a county judge does, and et cetera. So
Yeah, sounds great.
well, to get the ball rolling, tell us a little
Yep.
bit about yourself and your history.
Well, born and raised in Wise County, Chico kid, still live north of Chico.
Nice,
And
yep.
and grew up in that area and raising my girls in that area. And when I guess my route to public service and what took me there is it was the summer before my senior year of high school, and I needed a job, and I've always liked to write, and I thought, man, that would be cool if I could somehow make a little money doing that. So I went and talked to Keith Bridwell, who owned the Bridgeport Index at the time, and said, hey, I like to write. I'm looking for a job. Could you use me? Could you put me to work? And he gave me a shot. He had me write some stuff for him, and he said, okay, I'll give you a shot. And it was my summer break, so he said, your schedule's wide open. So he started sending me to city council, school board, and commissioner's court. And I was 17 at the time, and I had a pretty good idea of what school board did because my mom was a teacher. I understood that. Pretty good concept what a city council did. But commissioner's court, that was even just that name kind of throws you off, commissioner's court. And so was kind of walking in blind to that and, having to learn that quickly and who did what and who had what responsibilities and roles and who were the people in the room. Well, anyway, flash forward a bit. When I finished high school, I was going to college at North Texas in Denton and was able to keep writing for Keith for his paper, and so was still covering local government and really fell in love with that because, as somebody who didn't know a lot about it, being able to see like, hey, these people are making decisions that affect us every day, whether it's the streets that we're driving on or the water we're drinking or the schools that kids are going to, or does the sheriff's office have enough cars to get down the road? Things that matter every single day. But the flip side is, a lot of those meetings, I was the only person there in the room who wasn't either on that council or a member of staff. And I mean, you guys know how that is. Like, public participation is often terrible unless it's some particularly hot button issue.
Yeah, it really is. Like
Yeah.
people love to raise hell and complain and gripe, but when it comes to showing up,
Yep.
it doesn't really even you complain about that a lot at city council.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, if you're mad about something, show up and have your voice heard.
And a lot of it, most months, weeks, whenever you're meeting, it's not the sexy stuff, but it's really important stuff. And you would notice in a heartbeat if it was gone or if it was done badly.
Sure.
So I fell in love with that, and I was able to write some op-ed pieces about Chico specifically, because that's where I lived, and I was seeing some things that we should work on, and what if we tried this? And it was 2006, and some folks approached me and said, "Hey, we've got a council seat coming up. We've been reading what you're writing about it. Would you consider getting on city council?" And I was going to college at the time and still living over here, and I thought, yeah, I'll try that for a little bit. I was going to college, getting a degree in English and history, because I was going to teach. I was going to be a teacher. And so I thought, well, I could do that for a little bit. And then a couple years later, I guess 2009, 3 years later, ended up becoming mayor through the story on that is James Robinson was our mayor, and a great guy, great mayor, and learned a lot from him. And he had asked me, I guess that year or just prior, he said, "Hey, would you consider being my mayor pro tem?" There's not a whole lot to do with that. It's just if the mayor's going to be out,
Right.
you fill in at the meeting. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Well, so we did that, and about a month later, he called me to his house, and I went and met with him one evening, and he'd been diagnosed with a really aggressive cancer, and he said, I'm sorry, I'm going to be putting a lot more on you. And I was like, we'll figure it out. And I think
Trial by fire, huh?
yeah, I think by Christmas that year we had lost him, and he had passed away. And so there we went, and so we left that seat open as a tribute of respect to him, and just handled business till the next election, and I ran for it and won that.
How old were you then?
When I got on council, I was 20.
Yeah.
And I was 23 when I became mayor.
I remember that. Everybody kind of threw everybody for a loop. Are you to date? Are you the youngest mayor there's been?
Not ever.
Okay.
No. They've had some places that have had an 18-year-old get elected mayor in the state.
Not
things,
but Chico's for
yeah,
like the town of Chico.
yeah. And at the time that was the he's young, but
Oh yeah,
it's like
but I've seen some things, people.
I get older every day. Yeah. So. But that was an incredible experience, and so I was doing that, and I finished college, and I did become a teacher. That's what I was going to college for, and I taught school in Bowie. They hired me as a 7th grade reading teacher. I graduated from college on August 8th and started teaching on August 18th. So I had 10 days in between there.
Are you still the mayor at this time?
I was, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
you like a full plate then.
And something people need to understand when they're looking about, well, I'd serve, but I don't have the time. Especially in a lot of these roles, it's a part-time public service that you offer up, and don't be scared of the time commitment.
Sure.
It worked out for me as a teacher because I had my school hours where I was working. I could go by City Hall in the evenings. You have city meetings in the evenings, and then budget season, summertime, and I wasn't teaching then anyway. I was out, so I had a lot of flexibility during budget season. So taught junior high and high school there in Bowie, and had an incredible experience and loved that. I was working on and finished my master's degree in educational leadership because I thought eventually I'll move into school administration, be a principal or something. But the more I got involved in local government as a mayor and working with different groups and different things in the region, and just seeing at the time were a lot of growth projections coming our way, I became very concerned that we had a lot of work to do.
I'm glad you said that, because it's like federal, big federal government gets all the limelight. Like big national issues steal all the limelight and they get all the attention. But for 99% of us, your local government is the most important and the one you should be involved with.
Yep, absolutely.
100% of the time.
Well, and depending on where you live, and there's areas that feel it differently. When we have a federal shutdown, if you're in an area that has a lot of federal agencies in it or a lot of federal programs, you notice that right away. Or if you work for the federal government, of course, you notice that right away. But if you had a local government shutdown, you'd notice it tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right away, because it matters. And it goes back to that initial comment I made, and people just don't engage with it enough as they should. And I really think that it's the best form of government for a lot of reasons, but I think the big thing is when you get elected to local government, you're still here every day in the place you're representing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in Austin, you're not in D.C., and coming back periodically, like you're here every day.
Yeah, so you are
Yep.
you're entrenched and involved with the issues
Yep.
on a
Yep.
daily basis.
Well, and you see those people at the coffee shop.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Hey, good morning, Judge. Oh,
yeah.
by the way,
yeah, and you see that in the mornings.
Oh, yeah.
That's you answer some questions and
Yep.
take some chewings on the way in. But they see you pumping gas. They see you in the gas station, and they do engage with you and talk to you because you're not some far off guy.
yeah.
You're here.
We made that commentary with Dr. Stuckey, like being a local elected official or leader, but also being approachable. And he is, and you are too, and that's a big deal. And I mean, you could easily shy away and never go to the coffee shop in the morning. You could easily, dance around in the shadows and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, well, I'm still doing things for you," but nobody ever sees you. So.
Well, and I think it's my background of being often the guy in the room as a 18-year-old newspaper guy, being the only one in the room who wasn't part of the entity.
Uh-huh.
I want to invite people in,
Yeah.
and so I invite them in because I think it's better government, because I enjoy it. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy the feedback.
Yeah.
And I use my Facebook for that a lot, just trying to keep people part of it.
Yeah.
Rather than wondering, gosh, what does he work on? What does he care about?
Right. Right on. Good deal.
And it's why I'm here tonight too. So,
That's
That's
right.
why you're here
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
Other than the good whiskey being served.
That's right. That's-
Surely
that-
there's more
that
to
is-
this podcast,
That's
right?
quite a perk. I saw the name and said, I'm in.
Yep.
So-
Going to that.
I'm trying to think when I first met you. Undoubtedly, it was through Kevin Burns. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody networks in this community through Kevin Burns somehow or another. Dr. Stuckey
you
was
play
the same.
6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like we could play Kevin Burns in Wise
can.
County. So
but it's not 6 degrees.
it's a lot less degrees
It's
than that.
one.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, do
exactly.
you know Kevin
Yeah.
Burns? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Meet somebody in British Columbia. Do you know somebody from Texas named Kevin Burns? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he showed up up here on his motorcycle.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
exactly
We
who
ate
that
poutine
is.
together.
But anyway, and then you asked me a question. I launched off on this multi-year story, but
That happens. We love it.
became concerned about, and I don't necessarily mean concerned just as a negative criticism word either, but legitimately concerned that I knew and saw, like a lot of people, these projections were real, and we were projected then, and we are now. It's not we can't say now, well, the growth's going to come. The growth is here.
Is here.
The
and
growth is happening.
Not stopping.
And I wanted to be a part of that, and not necessarily be a place like I've seen some other places where maybe they weren't ready and the
Yeah.
growth just rolled over them. And then
Yeah.
the growth is shaping you versus us having a say in.
You're talking about being ahead on infrastructure,
Yep, absolutely.
utilities, having all that in the works. And then I guess I've also heard, people complain to you about, Jimbo down the road is unhappy that his neighbor is selling out to a developer, a subdivider. And it seems like people might think that you could put a stop to that. Is that the case?
No, often not. And
Okay.
and the thing is, and it's a lot of people will hear this and think, oh, that's a bad thing. But in the grand scheme of things, in Texas, we respect private property rights very much.
Yeah.
And have been proponents of that for a long time, since inception. But in Texas, because of that,
Unless it's Waco. Too soon.
Oh, man.
Sorry, go ahead.
I thought we weren't getting political tonight.
that did not take long. But in Texas, what people have to remember and don't realize a lot is counties exist as a subdivision of the state, whereas cities get created by people choosing to incorporate and form a city. So counties exist as a subdivision of the state. When we were an early state, they needed a way. Started back in the colonial system, and way back in Texas history and prior, but they set up these counties. There's 254 of them now, to say, hey, we need a way to be able to deliver services at the local level and carry out state statutes at the local level, so they create a county. So we're a subdivision of the state. So a county has to have permission, whether by the Texas Constitution or from a statute, a law passed by the state legislature, to do something.
Okay.
We're a permissive state in that the state's got to tell a county, you have authority to do this.
Okay.
Whereas a city, that's people locally choosing to incorporate and form a city. They set up ordinances. They say that's what we want the city to look like. And there's some differences there. If you're a general law city, the state lays out a little bit tighter on what you can or can't do. Whereas if you're a home rule city, you got a city charter and you've got a lot of latitude on what your rules are, what your ordinances are. But a county, we've got to have authority from a state to do something. And we don't have a lot of authority on housing in general in the unincorporated county, because that's what we're talking about is unincorporated county outside city limits. So what I mean by that is we don't have any zoning. And I say we, it's not just a Wise County thing. That's a county thing across the state. We don't have zoning in the unincorporated county. So you could have a residence that you built and somebody builds something commercial or industrial on the place next to it.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Okay.
They can do that. Same with, when they say, well, we don't think there should be a subdivision there. Well, the authorities that we have on housing subdivisions all come down to just how that land itself is subdivided. So what I mean by that is we've got some subdivision rules and regulations on here's how you can subdivide your land.
100 pages worth.
Yeah, yes. It is lengthy, but some of that's driven by, for example, the groundwater district says you've got to have 2 acres for a water well.
Sure.
So it's a 2 acre minimum for a subdivision. Unless you're on a public water system, it can be an acre, but it can't be smaller than that. A lot of people are surprised and pleased to hear that. That prevents a lot of that wall to wall dense housing that you see in some other places, and that's what people are concerned about.
There's only so much water in that aquifer
exactly.
too. So.
And we can do things on road infrastructure. We can require things on road infrastructure that you're going to put in, but we can't regulate density. We can't say this is the type of houses we want out there. We can't say we don't want another subdivision. You can't do one. We don't have that authority, and they're not subjective. And a lot of people will hear that and go, "Gosh, you ought to be able to say yes or no on a housing subdivision." Well, but play that longer. Do you want it to be subjective to your local government on yes or no what you can do with your property? There's just a clean set of rules.
Yep.
You can either do it or you can't. And we're not doing a case by case.
Sure. Okay. So ideally, you want to encourage the good type of developers coming in. And a lot of these rules are probably instated because of developers that have come in and taken advantage and then left with a bag full of money. And county's got to come in and foot the bill for you to finish out the subdivision.
And if it's county footing the bill, who is it? It's the taxpayers. Yeah, it's your tax funds. And so if we look a lot at drainage in these subdivision reviews, because that is where we've got some authority, and we want to make sure that, okay, you've got the right to do this subdivision on your piece of property, but your neighbor has a right to expect that there's not going to be a negative drainage impact on
Jimbo's
them.
going to wonder, why am I getting flooded all of a sudden after this new subdivision's here?
So that's something that we do have a lot of rules on is drainage, and our drainage rule is 0% change when it leaves the property line. So if that means you got to build a retention pond, we'll have people complain and say, "Well, I wasn't planning for that." Well, you need to, based on your topography and where you are in the size. We've got some new stuff going into effect January 1 that's new authorities that have been given to us by the state. Wise County's in what they call a PGMA, a Priority Groundwater Management Area, meaning, PGMA.
Figma.
And what that means is we obviously are in an area that has a lot of concern, legitimate concern about groundwater supply and aquifer recharging.
Why is that? Just is there?
Yeah, just where we are on the aquifer and the way it's shaped, and where a lot of these places are on the outcrop of the Trinity Aquifer, and we don't just have unlimited, groundwater supply, and so they have given us the ability, and we've passed it. We're going to do it in Wise County starting January 1. That if you're coming in and doing a subdivision, as part of that, just like you have to do a drainage study in a lot of cases. We're going to require these developers to do a groundwater availability study with an engineer, with a hydrologist, to look at both quantity and quality. Is it sustainable, not just for your development, but what kind of groundwater impact is this number of houses going to have on the surrounding property owners? Because, like where we sit right now, you should have an expectation that you've got an existing well, somebody can't come in right next door, put all these houses on it, then it's going to make your well go dry.
Right.
And so we've done an MOU with Upper Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. So when these developers do their groundwater availability study, the groundwater district with their geoscientists is going to look at that, because the commissioners are not geoscientists. Shocker, right?
Treat us like we're
Yeah.
dummies. What is
Yeah.
an MOU?
Oh, sorry, memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
So,
there.
yeah.
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, sorry. Government acronyms, and I apologize. But anyway, so we're going to be looking at that. And, if the groundwater district comes back to us after reviewing that and says, we don't believe that this subdivision as it's currently proposed is sustainable for groundwater, then we're going to kick that back to that developer and say, you either need to figure out a different way to do this, or you need to be thinking something other than water supply, because the answer is not just it's been the path of least resistance that you do a housing development and everybody just gets a well on their lot. That's not sustainable forever. And you just
can
can't
only-
do that. Yep.
Only
yep.
grow so much Bermuda grass.
Exactly. Exactly. And, and a lot of it, when you talk to the groundwater district, a lot of it does come down to expectations that people have if they've always lived in a city somewhere versus now they're moving to a development in unincorporated county. You've never had to think about where your water comes from.
Sure.
Right.
And you see the sprinklers going. I'm sure you guys notice it
24/7.
24/7. It's like, well, if you're on groundwater, that's not sustainable. And if everybody in that housing development's doing that, so
where do creative solutions come from? Do they come from your office? And do y'all offer that, or you make are these crunches you put on developers?
yeah, so we put the onus on the developers to, and like you said, if they were all good developers, we've got a lot of good developers we work with, but you have somebody come in that's not. They're often not local.
Yeah.
The local guys are here and they're invested, and this is their backyard, and they're doing a great job.
And they're making really beautiful subdivisions.
And so we can encourage things, and so we encourage them to look at what are some native grasses you could use, what are some native plants you could use, and even just little things like that add up and help over time. Yeah, exactly. And just think about it a little bit differently, because the models of what our groundwater is going to do over the next 20, 30, 40 years at its current rate is not pretty. And in the last 2 years actually, out of 254 counties, Wise County was the third and fourth, depending on the year, highest number of water wells drilled in the state. Yep. Yep.
I remember my dad telling me 25 years ago, he's like, around here in the future, boy, it's all going to be about water.
Yep. Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
we're here.
And so you've got, and there's a lot of things. I mean, this is just a piece of the puzzle, because there's not a magic bullet on water issues of this will fix it and we've got plenty of water forever. This is a piece of it to make developers think about it. What kind of impact are you having on the groundwater? To be able to make potential residents aware that if there was concern that came up, that you should know this before you invest in a property for 30 years. But at the same time, you've also got a lot of groups and a lot of cities looking at what are other things we can do. And you've got a group of cities looking at how can they be less dependent on groundwater supplies as a city. We need more access to surface water, and that's going to come through partnerships and pipelines and getting it from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things in the works with a lot of partners that I think are going to make a great positive difference. This is just a piece of it.
Artificially, I've seen some pretty cool solutions for especially backyards that, they've cut the size of their natural lawn in half, and you could probably vouch for this. Artificial turf has come a long way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people incorporate that, especially people that might have pool, around their pools, and it looks freaking great.
Yep.
And you don't have to water it.
Yep. Well, and rainwater harvesting, and we're doing that. We got a grant and got a rainwater harvesting system at the fairgrounds, the Wise County Fairgrounds, to be able to let ag kids use that and get used to that idea, and just help plant that seed and show like these can be attractive.
Yeah.
But they're also really useful, and you catch a lot more rain than you expect. We've got a 65,000 gallon tank out there. We also put a fitting on it that the fire department could show up and hook onto it if they needed to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that catching rain from the rooftops at the fairgrounds?
Off the show barns.
I'll
yeah.
be-
Yeah.
Nice.
That's pretty neat.
Yep.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, usually you hear the old libertarian rambles of my government won't even let me collect rainwater.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
And we're saying, please
yeah,
collect
just
rainwater.
collect it. Yeah, don't use their groundwater. Use the rainwater.
So is that not a thing? Because I've heard that numerous times. I've heard you can't collect rainwater. Is that just in
I
certain
think that's
places,
been
or?
in some localities, probably some cities with really strict rules in some
Angeles.
places. Yeah, I mean I've not heard of anybody here
Right.
that is opposed to or trying to interfere with anybody catching rainwater.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was, but
We're trying to do it in Paradise at Leone Park because
Yeah.
the well over there is terrible.
Yeah, and like a park's a great place to use it. And like,
So you're
I think-
encouraging catching it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's tons of grants out there.
No.
Yeah, because we got ours off a grant from the Upper Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, and they've done one with Parker County as well. They have a vision because they gave us a grant for $50,000, and that did our rainwater system out there at the fairgrounds because it's a big one. It's bigger than you'd have at your house,
Yeah.
but they've got this idea that they want to do at least one of these grants a year to a local government entity, whether that's a city for a park or a school or a fire department. And the more you get this out in the community, the more people are going to think about it as an option. And for parks, it makes a ton of sense. I think it's a great idea to have them at some schools and let kids learn about them and how that works and why
Yeah,
it
that's
matters.
a big engineering thing for the future.
Absolutely.
So why not? Yeah, put a little limelight on that and make it shine. I like that idea a lot. You've kind of broached on why inspired you and led you to become a county judge, and we talked a little about what county judges do inside their counties. But can we elaborate? Can we really give the people an idea of what the real day-to-day is of a county judge?
Yeah.
What is your authority? What do you do, et cetera?
yeah. And if you want to, just pick up where you left off, kind of, because when did you actually become?
I got elected in 14 in November of 14.
Oh, okay.
When I got sworn in. So in my third term now,
Nice.
doing that. But yeah, in the county judge title, and I'm glad that we're on here to talk about that and explain what it does because a lot of people don't understand what a county judge is
Right.
because it's a misleading title.
You're not in
It
a
is.
courtroom slamming a gavel, are
But
you?
I can be,
Okay.
and I am
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay.
But when I go speak to school groups, because I do that a lot,
Yeah.
and that's always the first question I ask them. Say, when you hear that I'm the county judge, what do you think that I do? And usually somebody shouts back, Judge Judy. You know, and that's that's what they imagine because it's county judge, and you hear
My
that.
courtroom.
Who's a
but,
great role model in the world needs a whole lot more Judge Judy currently, in my opinion.
Cut through the crap, and but. Back to when the state divided this up into counties, and our population was sparse all across the state then. And they created this position of county judge that was really a catch-all of a lot of things. And the county judge was a judicial position, and you would do a lot of misdemeanor, civil, probate, things like that. But at the same time, you're also the presiding officer of the commissioner's court, which is like a city council or like a school board, but for county government. And you're the presiding officer of that, and your administrative, your budget, and you could do all that because we were much smaller then. Well, as counties grow, it gets to be too much in a lot of situations for one position. And so as you hit different population thresholds, the state will create you then a county court at law position to peel off some of that judicial work. So we've got two of them. We've got County Court at Law 1, County Court at Law 2.
Okay.
And that's Greg Lowry in County Court at Law 1, previously Melton Cood. And then we've got Dana Monishagan as County Court at Law 2.
Okay.
And the way they've got that divvied up is Greg's court, County Court at Law 1, they do a lot of the criminal misdemeanor stuff. Dana's court handles a lot of the family stuff.
Okay.
She's got a lot of divorces that come through there, a lot of child custody things. But at the same time, then you've got the county judge out here who now doesn't have to do as much of that judicial, but I still have the constitutional authorities
If you need to.
do that. And so that has been busier at times than others. When Judge Melton Cood passed, I helped out a lot to cover and do what I could there before we had Greg appointed to do that. I've gone out and done, on days, go out and do the jail arraignments at the jail. If the justices of the peace are all out of town or if they all want to go to a conference, I can pick that up. Or if they're all unavailable, because the justices of the peace in counties like ours are also the coroners. They go out and do the death inquests. They're all unavailable. The next one it falls to in statute's the county judge. So, and I've had to do that.
Is that just because
before.
we're small, or?
Yeah, because as you hit different population thresholds and you create a county coroner,
Right,
or hire a county coroner. So I do have those judicial duties out there. I can and sometimes do will probates, mental health commitments, things like that. The jail arraignments, and I've done dockets as needed. I don't do a lot of that because we have two county courts at law, and they're great and stay on top of it. So most of them, the responsibilities I'm left with are broadly administrative and budget and policy. So I preside over the commissioners court. It's myself and 4 commissioners. I'm elected countywide. They each get elected from a precinct. The county's divided up into 4 precincts, and that's every county in the state has that divided up the same way.
Okay.
4 commissioners and a county judge. And
So even the bigger counties still only have 4.
that's right. So
Oh, okay.
even Tarrant County next door, they've got 4 commissioners and a county judge.
Why do they do
And
it
that's
that way?
commissioners court.
You know?
Just how it's always been, the good government answer, right? It's
Okay.
just,
It's been that way for 20 years.
But it is good because
I didn't know as they grew.
yeah,
they added another one or- okay.
you know, and there's the states all do it differently. I think when you get too big, if you had too big of a governing body, it's really hard to get anything done.
Right.
You know, I know a county in Wisconsin that's got 34 members on their county board.
Jeez.
And everybody's
exactly,
unhappy.
exactly.
Nobody's satisfied.
So we're all the same in Texas in that regard, and it works well in that you've got commissioners elected from a precinct to make sure that geographically you've got all the county represented.
Mm.
But whether it's me as a county judge or any of them as commissioners, we've all got an equal vote. We're 5 of us. We all get an equal vote, and
Right.
and so we work well together, and there's not a lot any of us can do on our own or unilaterally. The commissioners take care of the roads and bridges in their precincts and make those decisions on, you know, precinct 2 decides what precinct 2 projects are going to do. Precinct 4 decides what road and bridge projects they're going to do because they know best what their community's needing.
Right.
Is the idea.
So are you kind of like the mayor where you're the deciding if it comes
No,
down to it? or-
I get a vote on everything.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah. And so that was different switching from the city because at the city level, I only got a vote if it was a tie.
Right.
And so I can vote on anything. I can make motions in seconds if I
okay.
need to. I'm an equal 5th vote there. But
So your vote has no
Yep.
more superiority.
Nope.
It's just
Nope, not
it
at
is a
all.
vote.
and you know we have to remember it's called commissioners court,
Sure.
not county judges court. So that's an important thing. And so you know one of the biggest, I guess, burdensome process time components of my job every year is budget preparation because under state law, if you're a county our size, I think the breaking point's 125,000. If you're a county under 125,000, it says the county judge shall prepare a budget for commissioners court consideration. And so I work on that every summer with our auditor and the different elected officials and department heads and try and put together a really good proposal for the commissioners to consider. And then we'll go through it and talk about what's in there, what's not. Sometimes they want to tweak or change things, and that's fine. That's part of the process. But you know, it's like anything else. It's like in your home budget or in your city budget, you've got finite resources, and there's a lot of worthwhile ideas and projects, and you can't get them all done in a year. And so you have to prioritize and think about what's most important that we get done right now, or is there a project that's out there that's important, and if we do it, we can leverage maybe funding from another source. Maybe there's a grant available that could fast track this. And so I enjoy that work very much. I always enjoyed doing that at the city level. I love doing it at the county level because that's where the way you shape the budget, that's where you're shaping where your entity's going.
Right.
You know, you see what's important to people by where they spend their money, and that's the same at home in your personal life or in your local government. Is what are we spending money on? What have we got to get done? And I hear a lot, you know, from elected officials and department heads that have great ideas and legitimate concerns, but I just can't do it all in a single budget, single year.
Right.
And so, you know, I know there's always some disappointment there, but
Yeah.
that's
So
we have to get that done by October 1 every year.
Oh, okay.
that's
So once you and the commissioners have a budget that you like, does that then you have to send it off to the state or?
No, so the state doesn't get to thumbs up or thumbs down our budget.
Okay.
We decide that locally, and we vote on that as commissioners court. We we do have rules in place from the state, just like cities do, especially on tax rate, to help keep a check on tax rate, as we should have. It's fair and good, to make sure that you're not just going nuts with a tax rate
Sure.
every year.
Yeah.
And so It used to be there was an 8% revenue cap, and what I mean by that is a local entity with their tax rate. You could set the tax rate in a way that as long as you were under 8% growth year over year, you were within the confines of state statute. That's lowered now for cities and counties to 3.5%.
Yeah.
And that can be tough in a growing area because often the demand on services is growing more than
Always.
3.5%
Yeah.
in here, especially with inflation costs as well. But the good thing about it is new growth doesn't count towards that 3.5%. And so I'm not going to get too into the weeds on that.
That's
But
getting really slippery here. You said taxes and inflation.
But 3.5% we look at, and the idea is off of the same properties that were on our roll last year, is that growing less than 3.5%? Because the appraisals can be up way more than that, and we all see that.
Yeah.
So then it's up to your local entities to lower the tax rate enough, theoretically, to offset.
By the
all
way,
of that.
this
So,
is just a cattle barn. There's
this is a beautiful
there's
cattle
nothing-
barn. Yeah.
Cows right there.
But I don't do appraisals. I don't do values. So that's
I'm safe.
yeah.
I'm safe. Well, some of the things you just broached, really, I wrote down another question here. We got to remind ourselves sometimes that, we've all been fighting mad at our elected leaders over one thing or another, but we got to remind ourselves that these guys, your government officials just are humans too. So I really want to know, what is the toughest role, the most emotionally taxing role or part of your being a judge? What is the hardest part that you have to endure?
That's a great question. I think that what probably chaps me the most, because I have pretty thick skin naturally anyway,
Yeah.
and I've been serving in some capacity of local government public service. I started when I was 20, and I'm 38 now.
Yeah.
So I've developed thick skin. Things used to bother me more than they used to. But you also learn that's just part of the gig and what you sign up for. But I guess to answer your question, it would be keyboard warriors who have not bothered to actually reach out, talk, ask questions.
Yeah, I think we all deal with that.
And just want to fire off half-cocked with limited to no
Knowledge,
real information.
Yeah.
And that's not me dismissing them having concerns.
Right.
You should have concerns, and you should care about what's going on. But let's talk to the people involved, and let's try and understand what's happening. But I don't have to deal with a lot of that, and I think part of that is because I'm accessible and I'm around and people do talk to me. But sometimes, when you see something, somebody fires something off, and you're like, this person has never called me, never sent an email, and
this person's never left their house.
Yeah, and that's most all we deal with, and what we've heard is, most people, especially on Facebook, boy, they just throw some random crap out there.
Exactly.
And then,
Even the ones that are fighting mad that will come up, and it's amazing how, just a conversation, just a dialogue will simmer them down.
Oh, yeah.
Bring them back to reality.
Yeah, and that's most people too. Is we don't, and I don't say this as a negative thing about us as citizens. It's just it's more of a system failure than anything. But the whole reason you guys are doing this series of podcasts is because a lot of people don't understand what different entities do.
right.
And what you can do or what you can't do. And that's why this is so important. And it's because we don't have a lot of civics in schools anymore taught. You lose that. You learn about some stuff at your state level, but not much.
Not much.
Most of the focus is on the federal level and how that works. And little to no info do you get when you're going K through 12 schools about what county, city,
Local,
school does. And it's the most important form.
Yeah. Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. And you're not going through courses about taxation either.
Exactly.
You're not learning how to serve. You're getting prepped to go to college or go to a trade school. You're not learning any life essentials. There's home economics courses and stuff like that, but those are electives.
Yep.
And there's nothing, to my knowledge. We're just now at the beginning of raising a little one, but to my knowledge, there's no bare essentials courses. If somebody wants to exit high school and say, okay, I'm ready for work and don't want to go to college, I don't want to go to a trade school, I'd just like to get out and immediately go to work. Well, how do I file taxes at the end of the year? How do I get in touch with my local officials? How do I be a part of my community?
And you have some schools or some teachers in schools get passionate about that and do it, build it in. When I was teaching history, and I would talk about local government because I was in it, and they knew I was doing that, and they wanted to know, like, Clark, what does that mean? If you're mayor, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And but it needs to be more of a push from the state level to include that in some of our TEKs, the knowledge and skills that a teacher's supposed to be teaching. It shouldn't just be a teacher trying to squeeze it in where they have time because they've got all these, it should just be an integral part. Yeah. Yes, it's important to learn about who can run for president and what the requirements are.
Yeah.
I would think
there's requirements to run for president. say what now? What? Say what?
Fairly loose, it seems. But man, I wasn't going to get into that.
I'm sorry.
What you did.
I keep doing it. I'm sorry.
But
listen, if you can't laugh about it, we're screwed.
But I think there's a lot of kids, and I know I remember learning about. Well, you got to be.
I get you to pull that mic a little closer.
You got to be. You got to be.
You can pull it down too.
Sorry,
I know you're wanting to get comfortable. Yeah, just pull that thing down too.
You got to be 34 to run for president. You can run for 2 terms. We learn that kind of basic info, but we don't know anything about what
county judge does.
What county judge does.
Yeah.
And that's when you're growing up. You don't ever think, "Gosh, I want to be the county judge when I grow up," because you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You don't. And
that's also, I think, it's an issue now because you have people that are activists, people that don't really have a good fundamental core, moral values that are getting into these positions.
Yep.
And they don't have anything to do except for not destroy, but disrupt.
Yep.
And that's their only thing is being activist and disrupting. And that's not leadership.
Well, and it's especially, it's dangerous in spots where, if you have a unengaged electorate and nobody's signing up to run for spots, and somebody can just toss their name in and be unopposed, and then somebody's like, "Well, how did this person get in there?" Well, it's an unengaged electorate, and
there was a legitimate candidate for president named D's Nuts that got votes.
They put him in there and
he got votes.
Yeah, that's may or may not have been a whiskey bro, but I'm just saying.
But I'm saying they got votes.
Yep.
I mean,
Heath still has a stack of bumper stickers in his closet.
I got 'em down there.
But that's the issue. Is like people that could contribute a lot to local governments or even state government. They're not out there running. They're not. They don't want to be a part of it because all they see is the bullshit.
Yeah,
they see the drama. They see the keyboard warriors, and they're like, I don't want to deal with that. And in the era of social media, we broached this with Dr. Stuckey. It's compounded even more. Like the haters are even more.
But I would
vocal.
I would use this as an opportunity though to share with people that are listening that don't let that scare you off, because when you ask me that question about what's the hardest part or the thing that bothers me most, I mean, I can't point to a lot of days that I think, man, that was a really bad day, because there's so much more good in the work than anything.
Sure.
And I know a lot of people think, well, I don't want to quit my job that I'm doing and run for a county office. Well, you don't have to. Get involved with your school board. Get involved with your city council. We just need good, common sense people who want to be here and engaged in the community to serve in these spots.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And for, every one of those loudmouth, the squeaky wheel gets the grease type, there's at least, 5 to 10 to their one that are good people, good voters that just aren't loud.
Yep.
That aren't screeching.
And I just think that, by and large, I mean, I've never done career-wise, job-wise, project-wise, there's been nothing more fulfilling than this. Yeah. And I think most of my partners in city governments and school governments would say the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have tough things come up, but you can work on something and next week drive by it and say, we made that better.
You did, yeah.
You can't do that at the federal level.
No.
You can do it at the local level.
I was just thinking about that.
Drive by the border.
Yeah.
If you really want to see how something efficiently or how efficient a federal government service is, just look at your post office and the amount of junk mail that you get.
Oh my God.
It's insane. Anyways, so they're,
that's the greatest thing at the post office.
I'm trailing off down this rabbit trail, but
that they put those recycle bins. That's the best thing ever. Because I literally like
exactly.
Here's my one bill and
everything else in the
15
trash.
pages of junk mail in the recycle bin.
That's right.
If you've noticed a change in your bathroom habits and your number 2 isn't what it used to be, then let us invite you to try Autron Till. It's developed by Dr. Ken Brown, a board-certified gastroenterologist to help people that suffer from IBS, bloating, and diarrhea. It's made from all-natural, non-GMO polyphenols that will put your gut microbiome back in check. Trust us, we all use it, we all benefit from it, and yes, you will notice a difference. Try the 630 trial. That's 6 pills a day for 30 days, and if it's not working for you, you can get your money back. Click on the show notes for the details or go to autrontil.com and use keyword Whiskey Bros at checkout.
Oh yeah. What do you got to say, Cody?
Ghost Bro, chime in here.
Speak up, bro.
About what?
I was ready to move on to another subject. I mean, we're kind of beating this one.
Yeah, it's getting low.
I was
talk
ready
about
to move
something
on to a huge project and undertaking that you are spearheading and working on for the county, and that is the county courthouse construction, or
restoration.
Yeah.
renovation. That's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
It is.
It's important for a lot of reasons and way beyond us that are sitting here, but it ties to the growth that we talked about, because when people talk about the growth and what they like, what they don't like, universally, and I feel it, and you hear it from people you talk to, they say, well, I just don't want to lose what our community feels like, you know. And I think of it as, I don't want to just look like another bedroom community along the highway.
Right.
And so that's been something that I think about constantly, is what are things we can do to preserve that, keep that. Well, you do it through icons. You do it through visual things. You also do it because the people that are moving out here, you have to proactively engage them in what our community means, what its history is, how we got here, who's important to us. We can't expect them to just move out here and magically know that or find it on themselves. So you think, well, what's the fastest way to catch their attention in our local history? And it's that building you see on the hill.
Yeah.
You know?
It is a beacon.
It's a beacon.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And you see it from all over.
Yeah, you do.
Came through Paradise to get out here tonight. You see it from Paradise.
380 from Denton.
I'm over north of Chico, and when I get on 1655 in the morning, I can see it.
Yep.
You know,
I think you can see it pretty much right out of Gainesville coming that way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's a beautiful beacon. Like, not only can you see it from afar, but when you're close to it, it's a beautiful old granite building.
Exactly. And so we, that's our 4th courthouse that the county's had.
Yep.
The first one was a log cabin. Second one they built on the square, and it was burned down by arson.
Yep.
I think in 1881, something like that.
Yeah, he even had keyboard warriors back then. Except they got out of the house.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Exactly. More damaging than a meme.
Wasn't the
for
first one
sure.
up on like 287 area?
It was more up like where the museum and college was.
Oh,
Is
okay.
what I understand. Up on that hill, also a hill. So then they built a 3rd courthouse, and it was burned down in January of 1895, also by arson allegedly. And so the county looked at, and those were stick built buildings. And so the county really had kind of soul searching moment there. Like we've had 2 courthouses burned.
No more wood.
Yeah, and the record loss from that, from a county history or genealogical perspective, is just devastating. And so when you look back at the Wise County Messengers at that time, there's a lot of op-eds in there about, here's what we ought to build. And what they were talking about is, we need to build something that reflects where we see this county going, and build something that reflects where we see our promise and our wealth, what we have the ability to achieve, something aspirational.
Yeah.
And so they hired J. Riley Gordon, a renowned courthouse architect, and he absolutely knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And you look at that building and the details in it, and you think, gosh, I mean, he's a brilliant architect. I'm glad he drew this. But to me, more importantly, I'm glad that Commissioner's Court backed him up and said, yes, we're going to do this.
Right.
They went out on a limb.
Okay.
They went out on a limb to do that because, and I just wonder and think about what did that look like when it was finished in 1896? And there was not hardly anything else
Nothing up there.
like
I
this
got
out
a little
here.
bit of trivia here. And I really don't want to do this because I don't want to boost his ego here. 1896 was it Decatur then? Had the name change taken place?
Yes,
Okay,
it was Decatur then.
Civil War.
Yep.
Before Civil War, it was
Go ahead and tell them.
Is that for me to answer?
Sure.
yeah.
It's Taylorsville.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Taylorsville.
But you got to get that's your fourth name. Like you got to get way down the list to get.
We
to,
do.
Yeah,
But it's the most important one, though.
You know why it changed?
I don't.
Politics.
Politics.
It was
Yep.
so Taylorsville was named after President Taylor,
Okay.
and he changed political parties. And I'm going to get mixed up off the top of my head. He either went from Democrat to Whig or Whig to Democrat. I forget which one. And Absalom Bishop, he's
Yeah.
considered the father of Decatur, and he had a store on the square. He was furious that President Taylor had changed political parties, and so he started an initiative to rename the town and not be named after him anymore. So named it after Stephen Decatur, a naval hero. And, yeah. So politics.
Taylorville sounds better. I'm just
Back to our beautiful granite courthouse.
Yeah.
So I'm so proud of them for doing that, and I think about these guys really had a vision of what they thought Wise County could be, and I think it's a reminder to us that we're still not there yet either. We've still got a lot of community work to do and things to do right, and we need to make sure that we're always working to deserve a building like that sitting there. But then from a less romantic historical side, that building had gotten in really terrible shape, and it's just like if you buy a really old house, it needs a lot of work, and so it's expensive. It's a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of work. There'd been a lot of changes done to it over the years. Mid-century, late 1950s, early 1960s renovations were not kind to most buildings in America at that time. The courthouse was one of them. I don't pass judgment on decisions that were made by fathers before because they were working what they had at the time and what made sense. But it had gotten really bad as a workplace in terms of water damage, termites. As a safe workplace, and so we're tackling
Was it styling decisions of the mid-century that you're referring to, or like compartmentalization?
Yeah. So the biggest changes is some of it was a need for space, some of it was aesthetic, some of it was changing requirements. So, for example, our district courtroom used to be a 2-story district courtroom, and when I talk to student groups, I tell them, think about the courtroom in To Kill a Mockingbird, and they can picture that 2-story courtroom with a balcony.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And people are sitting up in the balcony watching the proceedings, and then there's also the pews down on the floor. That's what we had. They needed more space, and so they removed that balcony, and created a floor across that district courtroom. So it was then just a 1-story district courtroom with space above it. Completely changed the feel and style of that building. The center of that building, we all know where the elevator runs in it, the sketchy little elevator. That was put in that 1960 project. They had to have an elevator. It's a requirement. Right. Well, the path of least resistance, run it right up the center of this grand central staircase. But you used to be able to step into the basement at the bottom of those stairs and look all the way up through the center of those stairs and see the skylight up in the bell tower. And that was not just an aesthetic thing. Gordon was popular as a courthouse architect because he put corner entrances rather than just one front door and had this central open air atrium, and it moved air through that building. Ventilation.
Yeah, they didn't have central AC back then.
Absolutely. And it works because we've got that elevator out of it now, and you just feel the air moving that building differently than it ever has.
And you got to think regionally, summers aren't cool here.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You still got to have court in summer.
Absolutely. And if he told them, I've got a design that can move air, we pick this guy. Yeah. So that was a big one. Of course, then just things that have had to happen over the years, like just tacking on electrical changes, technological changes, dropped ceilings everywhere, funky 1980s texture, layers and layers of carpet. Yeah.
For people outside of this county that might be listening, I mean, even if you're not a Wise County resident, we do have a lot of followers out there or listeners outside of Wise County, but it would be fun for them to go to your Judge J.D. Clark County Judge page on Facebook because you post a lot of these updates.
Yeah, we've actually got a Wise County courthouse restoration page that we're tracking that, and that's just to keep people involved because a lot of the work is interior and you can't see it when you're just walking by. And we want people to know what's going on and what's happening. And so we got a grant from the State Historic Commission to fully restore this courthouse. We got $8 million from the state. It's a $14.6 million project.
Wow. Okay.
And so it's supposed to be finished by this time next year, December.
They're going to put a cool digital clock up top, or
no,
it'll always be flashing 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock.
So we've got the original clock mechanism up there, and which is awesome. And it as part of the project, it gets restored and reworked, and the clock faces get redone. And 2 of the clock faces work, 2 don't. And I tell people you change time zones as you walk around the square, but it'll all work when we're done, and the bell's still up there, and it's just going to be incredible because we're gonna have that 2-story courtroom back, that open air atrium, those aesthetic things. But at the same time, it's going to have a new roof, new windows in it. We've waterproofed the basement, all these things that have been terrible for the building over the years, and it's going to be a good workplace again, and be able to work out of it for another 100 years.
Okay, that's a question to ask right now. So you've moved offices out of that court, into the building. So court's going to come back in.
Yeah. So when we come back in, who's displaced out of that right now is myself, the district clerk, district attorney, and district judge.
Okay.
And we're all going to go back in. We're reworking who's going to be where. It's going to have a bit different layout. We're going to work better. Now the first floors that you're going to go to is all going to be district business. I'll be on the 3rd floor with a commissioner's courtroom, which we've never had, like a designated commissioner's courtroom meeting space. And we need that. So now you'll have all your district business, and then when you get to the 3rd floor, you've got commissioner's court and county judge up there.
Well, personally speaking, I want to see this after it's done. So is there a segment, or is there a time of the week that it's open to the public to come view?
Grand opening?
So that's a great question. Right now it's completely off limits, of course, as a construction zone. But when it's open, when it's reopened and we're back in it, that's a public building. And Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, anybody can come in there and walk through that thing.
Okay.
That's open to the public, and you can come hop in and sit and listen to court if you want to. It's better. I recommend to people that maybe they call ahead of time, and whether that's calling me, Frida at Decatur Main Street's good too. You can call her, and if you're wanting like a guided tour, one of us will usually work it in to do that. But we can tell you maybe a day that week that you're looking at coming that there's no court, so you can go enjoy the courtroom more fully. But back to your question. So it's open to the public, but my goal is I want there to be more opportunities during non-business hours to have people come in there. And our first benchmark is, our vision is, all right, when we reopen, our initial goal to get more people in a non-business setting is to have that courthouse open with somebody from the county there to staff it, whether it's me or somebody else. Probably have a volunteer rotation of there's other elected officials interested, staff interested. Have that building open during the car shows on the square. And I think that's the initial great benchmark, because there's so many people coming to that square on those nights to appreciate work that people have done to those vehicles. They'd probably also appreciate coming through and seeing the work done to that building.
Car guys are also architecture guys, 100%.
Yep, absolutely. And so I just think that's a great opportunity. I envision I want it open at Christmas time on tree lighting night, and be able to bring kids in, and maybe Santa Claus needs to be in the district courtroom when it's this beautiful 2-story courtroom.
Or up top, looking out the top window.
Bring kids in to see Santa and get their picture taken in there. But I love when student groups come. We make it available to field trips. We try and work that around court schedule. But we want more opportunities outside business hours for people to see that. And it's also a huge draw. You mentioned listeners from outside the county. When we were in it, we've always kept a guest book there in the main hallway. And you see people from all different cities and states and even countries, often not seeking it out on its own, but they're traveling and they see it off the highway, and they're like, we got to exit off and go see what that is. Well, then once you get them downtown, they're going to go eat lunch somewhere. They're going to go in somebody's store. And heritage tourism is a huge thing in Texas. People that want these authentic Texas community experiences, but you got to have the anchor. You got to have what's bringing them. And for us, it's that courthouse. It already is.
Yep.
And our project superintendent on that, he says every day people are out here taking pictures of this courthouse, even with the fence up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that we're going to have some interest in people being able to schedule it in non-business hours for some film and TV shoots.
Mm-hmm.
We got hit up. I guess it was late last year. Taylor Sheridan's location people wanted to come see it for the Bass Reeves show that's out now. They were needing a courthouse for some court scenes, and they heard about ours. And I said, well, it's not what you're imagining. It'll be that way once it's restored, And so I walked them through it, and they're like, this is going to be incredible when it's done, And they ended up using Ellis County instead, which is our sister courthouse and same architect. But
Waxahachie.
Yep, at Waxahachie.
That's also a beautiful courthouse.
It is. It is. So they were done 20 plus years ago in the first round of grant funding. And so we've been able to learn from them and go visit a lot of their courthouses that have been restored and say, what do you wish you'd done differently in your restoration? And so while we wish it would have been nice to have had the courthouse restored before, two things. I'm glad that we're able to learn from those projects that have already done it, been through the ringer. Yeah. And number two, I'm glad I'm the guy that gets to do it now since it fell at this time.
Yeah.
So
I'm channeling some infatuation through my late grandfather, Charles Geddes, who is the Geddes name's on the Geddes McMurray building.
Absolutely.
He started Allied Agency, and his father, Cicero Geddes, was the Cicero Geddes law firm with Woodruffs and everything else like that. So he was a
great building too on the square.
It really is. He would be very, very proud to see where the square is currently. He loved that. He loved that town square.
Well, and I know, and it's fun hearing from a lot of people that have wanted and wished and worked for this courthouse to get restored for a long time, but it takes a lot of chess pieces getting in the right place at the right time, and funding. And I'm just fortunate we got all, because one of the things is even if you get the grant, then where are you going to move everybody to? And so that's another piece that we had to have in place. And when I first ran in 13 and 14, that's one of the things I talked about is we need to restore the courthouse. I'm a history guy, and back to my original thing, when you lose it, it's gone.
Sure.
It's gone. And so as we grow, these historic sites become even more important, so that not just for our kids that have family from here and are growing up here, but the new people moving in, I want them to buy into Wise County history.
Yeah.
And say, you know what? I like this county's story. I like the values they've stood for, and I want to be part of this. So
we're surrounded by counties that are like Tarrant County. Fort Worth does a really good job preserving their old buildings. Another current thing going on is in Mineral Wells.
Oh yeah,
the Baker.
Yep. Very excited about that.
I'm really excited about that too. Do you think they're going to pull it off? Because that's a private enterprise.
That's a private enterprise. They seem confident. And
putting it out there.
They're making a massive investment, and I know they kind of I think have a good vision for it. In that, if that was just a standalone hotel, it'd be hard to make it float, I think. But they're looking at it as hotel rooms plus restaurant space plus, I think the big component, event venue, like weddings.
Oh
gosh, as a wedding venue,
they'll
have that sucker booked all the time.
All the time,
Yep.
There will be a waiting list for sure. So we can't talk about preserving history, restoring old buildings, and without talking about history lost, which would happen with the old DBU.
Before we go down that dirty road, I got 3 questions. I've been waiting on the courthouse. Are we going to get the lights back up?
Yes. Can I talk about
we'll
that?
We'll go one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So we've and people notice it this year because they're not there.
Oh yeah.
Wait, there are no lights this year?
The Christmas light, the lights that go down. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I haven't noticed that. They're not there?
Yeah, no string lights off the bell tower.
Shame on me.
I know, right?
There's nothing to plug them into right now.
You need some more.
I'll take a little bit more.
Yeah, so they are down. They are down for the restoration because, number one, all the electrical got demoed out of that building because it's getting an all-new electrical system. We're also putting a new anchoring system for those lights up in the bell tower. It's a little hanky.
I went up there. It was a little sketchy. I'm not going to lie.
And so that's part of it. The other thing is we're getting a whole new roof on that, which starts fairly imminently, and the cranes are not going to be able to access that roof
Right,
with
with all
those string
those.
lights up there. So I know people miss them this year, but it's going to be well worth it because we're doing a that's a hard building to light, you know, or add lights to after the fact. So what we're doing is, yes, the string lights are coming back, but they're going to be color change lights, like off an app, LEDs. So we don't have to send Gallman up there every Christmas and try and get the white lights down to put the red lights up. We'll be able to color change them. Along with that, we're doing uplighting on the building that will also be color change, and we're doing a light wash in the bell tower itself, so we can light up the bell tower, and you're going to see that sucker.
It's amazing how really good lighting showcases
well, it is
beautiful
because
architecture.
I called him the other day, and just with the construction, they're leaving the lights on the inside on at night, and it's shooting out the windows. And I'm like, oh my god, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I remember getting videos of my daughter during the parade of lights, and I didn't pay any attention while we were there, but I'm watching the video that we took with her. I'm like, the courthouse lights are on the inside, and it looks really cool.
Yes.
Rooms lit up in the
you
windows.
Scope that out, and it makes a huge difference.
It does.
But that lighting package, I think, is going to be phenomenal when it's
Do you
back.
guys plan on leaving them on year round? For like,
Yep, we do. So we have those string lights on as white lights all throughout the year, and then the signal for Christmas season is they change to red.
Change the red.
You know?
Can't forget about Halloween, some black
But,
or purple.
but that's what that's
the new
so
ones.
now.
The new ones you'll
because
be able to.
in the past we had to physically change strings of lights out
Each bulb.
Yeah.
and now we'll be able to
Do it by
I think St. Patrick's Day, light that thing up green, you know,
There you go.
and
Red,
Halloween,
white, and
red,
blue.
white, and blue for Memorial Day, 4th of July, things like that.
Is
I
Gallman
think
going to
there's
be
a lot of-
heartbroken?
No, because
he will not.
He will not. That's what I was going to tell him. I was like, if the wind's blowing 1.5 miles per hour, Gallman ain't going to do it. It's too windy. It's too windy.
The bucket gets a little swirly.
But it's a hassle to do that.
Oh, it's a pain.
Man,
I've
it's
done
a
it.
hassle.
It is a pain.
It's going to be really nice. So yes, lights are coming back,
Perfect.
and even better than before.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the big red bulbs
Yes.
that they used to string back in the
Yes.
90s?
Yes.
Yeah. And they looked great when they first put them out. And then, 4 days later, you come by, one strand's out.
Yep,
They're just like,
exactly.
screw it. We put them up. They lasted while they did.
All right. Second question: what's the coolest thing that you found in the courthouse since you started remodeling?
yeah.
Like,
There's
have
gotta
you
be-
found a finger in the wall, or
Some skeletons.
what's that you could talk about?
the
Anyway?
foundation.
What's the coolest thing that you've uncovered? I guess is the word.
So if we find skeletons, we have to report that as like an archaeological thing, and it's going to shut down the project. So there are no
you haven't found
skeletons.
any.
But you are. If you drive by, you're excavating down to the foundations,
so
too.
we dug all the way down to the footings
Yeah.
to waterproof that basement.
Okay.
But the coolest thing we found is they've been doing, of course they did demo through the whole building, but taking up the floorboards in the attic that have been added over the years. And the coolest thing that I think we found is tucked away in an area of the attic over one of those, kind of curved wings of the building that's been hard to access. Normally, they found several of these really old cereal boxes called Scotch White Oats, and I've got a picture on that Facebook page. And when I say they're old, they're old. So I researched the company. It's an American cereal company. They were formed in 1891. They ceased to exist in 1901. They had a 10-year window because then they became part of the Quaker Oats Company. So we're talking about this 10-year window that this Scotch White Oats existed. My theory is, because there were several of these empty cereal boxes, it's probably construction workers eating on the job site
Yeah.
in 1895, 1896. And they've just been tucked up there forever ever since then, and that blows my mind. And they've just been sitting there.
You're going to try to do something with them, or
So everything we find like that, we're setting aside. Somebody said the other day, one of the project guys said, "You guys are getting like your own exhibit here," and I said, "That's the goal because my hope is that eventually, then when this is done, we can have an exhibit, hopefully and what I know your next topic is going to be in a new Wise County Heritage Museum, whatever that may be and look like." Have an exhibit about the courthouse restoration, but have some physical objects that we found because, we found some Prince Albert tins.
that's what my dad used to smoke.
Yeah, up in the attic. some really old beer cans up there, which is cool, and those are collectible.
That's
But,
when the judges needed a break.
I've had those county government days.
You need a cold beer once in a while.
Yeah, but so we're finding things like that so far. We found a judge's docket book, handwritten with cases they were hearing from 1925.
That's neat.
That
That's
had
pretty cool.
fallen under something up there. And so,
same thing. But so before my family's, my mom and my dad married. My dad wasn't born until the late 50s. Neither was my mother. But I found an old going through safes out here, a letter from Cicero Geddes, in Decatur, and my great grandfather out here, Bill Daggett, who owned the farm, inquiring about some sort of county tax thing, and it was a letter back and forth to him, and I found it out here. And this is before these families met each other and married in the 70s. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
1925 was the date on it.
Oh,
that's amazing. And there's still a lot of project to go, so we may find some other things like that still. But
it's really cool to find that, though.
Yep, it's cool to find, and to me, it's just a reminder. And I know that's little stuff. It's like, what's a cereal box? But it also makes you realize this history that we talk about was not.
No,
right.
And and I think, and I had this conversation with somebody the other day. When you read some of the historical markers around about the different Indian raids, the Comanche raids, in the grand scheme of things, we're not that far off.
Yeah, not that long ago, really.
And this is a pretty wild place.
On a universal scale, that was yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And so to think those cereal boxes have been sitting up there with all the life that's happened in that building ever since,
so they were just chilling. They weren't
just chilling,
being used as a wind
covered
barrier.
in dust. Nope. Intact.
Cool.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's pretty cool.
All right, one more, and this could be the most important because I'm the creator of Conspiracy Crossroads. So, did you keep the tunnels open that goes under the courthouse and out through the square?
No, there's no what?
Did you keep them open, or were they sealed shut, sir?
Yeah, and I like that you foster this conspiracy by framing the question in a way that just presumes there were tunnels.
Yeah, that's a great way to
tunnels, tunnels, because and I get asked that a lot and say,
Yeah.
well, a tunnel to the Masonic Lodge and things like that. There is no tunnel because another thing is that I can tell people is when you can see in the photos I posted, but we dug down to the footings, and the footings were a lot closer than anybody expected because then it's just sitting on limestone.
Yeah.
All under there. And just solid rock. And we had heard before, and Frida had shared with me, that the reason that basement is so squatty in terms of height is because they couldn't go down.
Because of the limestone.
Farther because of the limestone. So no tunnels. But it's also why that structure is in such good shape because it ain't.
So you think that got confused because Bridgeport having coal mining tunnels under the town, maybe? And
I don't know. I'm not sure.
two.
I'm not sure where that story came from, but that's not Heath making that up. I've heard that from a lot
I've
of
not
people.
ever heard it until now. This is the first time I've ever heard about
I've
it.
been asked about that a lot.
The jail used to be up on the corner, and I've heard it went from the jail to the courthouse. I've heard
Okay, now I've heard about the convicts exit or whatever, but
that's always been on the bottom there.
And there's some tiny, tight little spiral stairs that run up a turret, I'll call it, so you can get from the basement up to the district courtroom, and you could take inmates straight up that. Yeah, that's real, and that's there. It's intact, but no tunnel.
No tunnels. So.
No
I guess
tunnel.
I say convicts. How not guilty or innocent proven proven guilty here, Chance. Hello.
But no tunnel, no skeletons. So
cool cereal boxes.
Yeah.
And tobacco tins.
Tobacco. How many of those did you find? Because those were real popular back in the day.
We got 2 of them, 3 of them so
Prince
far.
Albert.
Yeah, Prince Albert.
Isn't that also a piercing?
But let's not get into
Oh,
that.
he didn't find none of those.
All right. Well, I guess we got to ask. We're talking about history and whatnot here. We just lost a huge monument and relic to our county history. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we can.
What the future might be relating to that?
Yeah, and I'm not the guy that can specifically tell you because that's not a county government entity.
Yeah.
But as a history partner with them and somebody very engaged with them, I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay.
So that museum, that space was owned and run beautifully by the Wise County Historical Society. They are a standalone 501c3 that exists and have done a tremendous job. There are, what's the best? I don't want to get too into the weeds. There's two separate entities that work hand in hand together. One's the Wise County Historical Society, which is the 501c3. They exist because then they can raise funds, do, tax deductible things for people. They ran that museum. We also have the Wise County Historical Commission, which that's a board that's appointed by the county commissioners court. We give them some funding every year. They do the historical markers and things.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But generally, they blend together, work hand in hand. It's a lot of the same people that serve on both, but it's the 501c3, the society, that owns the museum and operates that. So that fire is one of those once-in-a-generation tragedy things that everybody that was here will remember, and it's sad. And there's no other way to say it, but it's sad, sad, sad. And they're still figuring out what's the future going to look like. They're not quitting, but that's a massive, massive undertaking, whatever that's going to look like. And so I know they have hired, I was with them just a couple months ago for a meeting about this, and they voted to hire a demolition company to begin just after the first of the year, and they're going to start doing selective demolition on those remaining walls. Because right now it's a lot of what ifs. Well, as they talk about, well, could we rebuild? Is anything salvageable? Should we build something new on that site? Should we go somewhere else? A lot of those questions can't be answered really until they do their selective demo and know what's really there. There's a hope that maybe there's even some things under some of the rubble that's still intact, artifact-wise, that they could use elsewhere, which would be amazing.
Right. Yep.
But you can't just send volunteers in there right now to sift through that
It's a
because
danger.
you can tell by looking at it. It's
Yeah,
a
it could
danger.
fall any minute. Yeah.
Yep. So they're going to start that selective demo, start taking the walls down, and get down to a place where they can decide what's feasible. And,
When you say what's feasible, does this mean potential restoration of the building, or no?
Yeah,
We're starting
yeah.
over.
yeah, well, and I think you got to look at all those things because the fire was devastating enough. You can't replicate what that building was.
Oh, no way. No.
You can't replicate what that building was. Not feasibly. Money's a real factor for a community 501c3. Are there parts of it that you can incorporate into a new structure? I don't know. They don't know. That's part of their question. Is there something new that they should build on that site, be at the same location? They've talked about, do we still need to be at that location? Should we be downtown and walkable near the courthouse? There's some legitimate good ideas there too. But I think the big thing is there have been a lot of people, and I've seen things on Facebook of people wondering why they're not doing something faster. Those people that serve on that society and worked that museum, they've been dealing with grief. Too,
Yeah, that's a loss
grief.
of the family.
Yeah. And so it's a hard process. I think they're doing it the right way by hiring this selective demo company. And, and I've helped connect them with some good folks to talk to about the future and what might that look like. But right now they don't know what they don't know. And so they're going to start this selective demo process and start taking down those walls and figure out, okay, is this something that we rebuild a portion of this? Or maybe we can incorporate some of this wall or some of this stone into a new facility. Those people aren't going to quit, though, and there's going to be another museum for Wise County. I just can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like.
I
or
like
where it's
the
gonna be,
location
so.
because, like where the courthouse exists, whatever is built there is a beacon.
Yep.
Because of the hilltop location, and the three real estate things: location, location, location.
Yep.
So whatever goes, I hope they can reconstruct or build anew is in the same spot.
Yeah, and you think about too, and the reason, what a loss up there, because when you're in the courthouse bell tower, you're in this iconic site, and you look out one direction and you saw the museum, the old college sitting on one hill. You look out the other side, and you see the Wagoner Mansion sitting on another hill, and you've got these three hilltops there with what were iconic buildings until we lost the museum.
Well, now, sir, if you look due west out of the courthouse, you'll see the chief.
That's right. That's right.
It's not quite there with the other ones yet, but it's gaining. It's gaining.
And
He does have,
I had to
he does
give
have
him a
an
shout out,
illuminated
yeah.
sign, right?
He does have a new sign.
Yeah, you can see his beacon.
and if I look south, I don't see the museum as it stood anymore, but I see a beautiful new Decatur water tower.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Renovation too, which was much needed. So
Yes.
that's great. But those people are working hard. And I guess too, what I would remind everybody to think about is that is grief, that is loss. But I try to remind myself and remind other people that those things that we missed that burned, those were things.
Mhm.
You know, they were things. And the stories can exist without those things.
Right.
And the story is what we have to keep going and find other ways to tell. We can't quit because the things burn.
Right.
We have to find new ways to tell those stories. And so we're going to keep doing that and working with them. They've got some really great ideas. I think that, you know, we're going to be able to help them some when they've got a spot, got a home. Like I said, we're squirreling things away, and with an idea, I tend to, for better or worse, sometimes I'm thinking down the road of what the next move is, and it's like, okay, what this stuff? What do we do with it? Well, they're going to need stuff in a new museum.
Yeah.
So go from there.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool. That's where it
Yep.
stands as of now.
Yep.
Well, let's round this up and talk about some of your accomplishments as county judge, and one specifically getting elected second vice president of the National Association of Counties in July. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So National Association of Counties. I'll use another acronym. It's NACO. What we call it. It's a nationwide organization for the 3,069 counties, parishes, and boroughs that exist across America.
Okay.
And what we do is we're an organization that seeks to be a voice for county government at the federal level, because we have a really, really hard time as individual counties getting significant enough attention on issues at the federal level to either let them know about policies, regulations, laws that could either help or hurt county government, or even not just county government, but at the local level, what that would look like implemented. But we do realize that when a lot of us counties get together, we've got a lot of similar issues that we can team up on. And so suddenly that creates a network of county voices that gets a whole lot more attention up there. We've been hugely, hugely successful in advocating for counties. I couldn't even list to you everything that we work on because it's in all different policy sectors. But what we look at is, as Congress is looking at doing things, is there an impact on county government? Is there an impact on county services? And a lot of time there is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they don't think about it because they've never served at the local level.
Sure.
They've never done that. And it's so full circle moment now. And they don't, it's easy to have a good idea when somebody else is either going to have to pay for it or implement it.
We're
And
good.
I'm glad that was water and not the whiskey.
Just thousands of
You just electrocuted Heath. Right?
Keep on talking. I'll be right back.
So anyway, and for example, I'll give an example that I know has been an issue to that I've talked to a lot of farmers and ranchers over the past few years in Wise County, and it's been going on for years now. And NACO keeps pushing back and giving good data and alternatives and getting some wins, and then you have another restart or setback. But it's a rule called the Waters of the United States rule, and this was a rule going through the EPA that was seeking to define or redefine or clarify what fell under Clean Water Act, Federal Clean Water Act. And it was written in such a vague way, this definition they were doing, it was written in such a vague, flexible way that it could be interpreted to mean even to the point that the waters that collect in our county bar ditches would fall under Federal Clean Water Act
Oh, wow.
rules. Or if you're a farmer or rancher and you have water accumulating on your property that you use for ag purposes, the argument could be made under this definition that it eventually makes its way to federal waterways and should fall under Federal Clean Water Act. It would completely stifle a lot of the ag and ranching activities if you're having to then do federal clean water permits.
Right.
Counties trying to work along their bar ditches and clean out bar ditches should not be having to go through any EPA
Right.
regulations for that. And so NACO was a great voice to explain, hey, we know you guys have this idea and this is how you've written it. Let us explain to you what this means at the county level.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been very successful in that. And there's a lot of other things like it. And I love it because I'm a county judge in a county of, about 75,000 people. I can talk to our congressman, but I can't talk to a lot of other congressmen.
Right.
Wise County, Texas, that's not our thing. But
You
if
just got to get Burns. Hell.
that's right.
That's why you got to get him.
Exactly. But if I team up with counties from across the nation on an issue like
Right.
waters in the United States, we're going to get something done.
Yeah.
And we've done great with broadband policy and with some of our veterans issues with veteran service officers. And so, anyway, long story short, I got involved with NACO and served in the Rural Action Caucus, which is a group of rural counties within NACO. They chose me to head up the telecom and technology and broadband work there, and I did that for a while. I ended up then this year running for second VP of NACO. That's the only position you run for within NACO. If you get elected second VP, then the next year you roll up to first VP, and then the third year you roll up to be president of
okay.
NACO. And it was a wild experience because we've got an annual conference where we all get together and all the states meet in their caucuses. There's a Texas caucus, a Nebraska caucus, a California caucus.
Ours is the best, right?
And I had to go around and meet with all these different state caucuses of counties and talk to them about why I think a guy from my county and my position could best be a voice for all of us in NACO. And we won. We were successful, and
Nice.
we pulled that off. And I think it's because where we sit in Wise County, we've got Tarrant County as a neighbor that's over 2 million population.
Right.
We're about 75,000. Then we've got Jack County as a neighbor that's less than 10,000. Kind of a sweet spot to be able to work with partners of all sizes.
Right.
And that's the message that I was able to carry to a lot of other counties. And there's a lot of counties like ours that they've been traditionally rural, but they're experiencing some high growth in some areas. And it's a juggling act. And we're all trying to figure out how do we stay ahead of this and manage it. And so I'm excited to work with them at the federal level and get some better work done for local government.
Nice. Nice. So you said we're right around 75,000 countywide?
Yeah.
So just going back what you said before, you said something would change once we went to like 100,000 in population. I don't remember what that was.
So if I remember right, the population benchmark, when you're 125,000 or higher population, it's not necessarily the county judge that prepares the budget each year.
Okay.
But you either appoint or hire a budget officer, which
Okay.
in some places is either a finance officer or a county administrator. We are not to that point.
Right. But with the growth coming in, how soon are y'all looking at that?
The population estimates from North Central Texas Council of Governments put us at, by the year 2040, so less than 20 years from now, at about 105,000 people.
Oh, okay.
I think that's pretty conservative.
That seems
Right, I should say.
yeah.
Yep.
I would have been less surprised if you had said we were going to double.
Yeah, and
Because if you ask a certain school board, they didn't add right either. So I'm just saying.
well,
it's
and
not-
those
Depends
so
on what
being
school board you
Yeah.
ask.
Because it's crazy.
Don't walk me into that, guys.
Yeah. No, my point
yeah.
was though is like I don't think nobody really expected the amount of growth that we got all of a sudden,
Yeah,
or
and
they
it's,
didn't prepare for it right, or they just I don't think that they even thought it was even possible that quick.
yeah, and I don't think you quite realize. There's some people that would even argue that it's not here, unless they pick
Yeah.
some county roads and go drive down
Oh,
right.
and see the housing developments.
Right.
And you go past 1 week to the next, and you're like, where did those houses come from?
Oh, yeah.
But I'm in a little bit different boat because we see the plat submissions come in, and I know when I started as county judge, we might see 2 plats on a commissioner's court agenda, and we meet twice a month.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now we've got 12 to 15
Wow.
subdivision plats each time.
Okay.
And it's happening now. I think some of it slowed a little bit in terms of physical houses with the interest rates
Yeah.
being high. It didn't slow down the platting because those are developers getting ready for the long term,
Right.
dividing up those lots. and they know those interest rates are gonna.
Not going to stay.
They're already on
Yeah,
the way down.
they're on their way down.
Yep,
They're on
so
their way
it's gonna
down.
be here.
And so they, they're making their investments and hedging their bets and still doing their plats. And so if those interest rates keep coming down, get ready.
Yeah. I mean, even in this current time, compared to the rest of the nation, we didn't slow down
Nope,
too
not
much
at all.
here. They're still building, and
And
people are still buying.
still building, still buying, and a lot of it is that you do see a lot of people from other states selling out of where they are
Yeah.
for a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
And they're able to come here with cash, pay cash on a place, and still put money in the bank.
Yeah, still
You
have
know?
it, Yep.
Sometimes
Yep.
sight unseen.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Looks good on
That's-
Zillow. Hey,
that's exactly
call
right.
that realtor.
Yep,
We're
yep.
in.
And so, and just like with our sales tax, record amounts of sales tax revenue in the county for a multitude of reasons. And part of it is the growth. Part of it is they changed the laws that if you buy online now, that sales tax goes to your locality where you're purchasing it as well. So, I know that Amazon's not good for a lot of mom and pop businesses, but at least we're going to get the sales tax out of that
Right.
as well. You got to get something
Yeah.
out of the deal
That ain't no joke.
if that's going to exist. But the other thing is you mentioned that was Cicero your great grandfather?
Great grandfather. Yeah.
Would be so proud of the work happening on the square. There's a lot of areas like that in Wise County where you got independently owned businesses. Decatur Town Square is a beautiful model. Downtown Bridgeport doing great things, and people are able to come here and open businesses that are succeeding and thriving that wouldn't have made it here 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
But we've got enough people now
That can sustain those.
staying
yeah.
here to sustain it.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Any other notable accomplishments that you want to talk about while we have you? I mean, this is your pillar right here.
Yeah. Well, Chance, I think I'm full of notable accomplishments.
That's right.
We know you are. We do.
Just ask my wife. I tell her all the time. Let me tell you what good I did today.
We can call her real quick.
Hold on. No, don't. Because just before I came out here, I had to go in the pantry and get something, and I accidentally knocked off this whole thing of oatmeal that just everywhere.
And you just looked at her and said,
Yeah.
I got to go to the Whiskey Bros. I'm out.
Yeah, the Whiskey Brothers need me. So don't call her right now. But no, I would just say we have a really, and you'll roll your eyes at this county judge saying this, we have a really great county government right now. And I mean that in terms of I'm not in charge of everything. A lot of elected officials that are independently elected. I will have people that get mad at another elected official. Let's say a commissioner. They think a commissioner's not working on a road they ought to work on. And they call me.
You've never heard that, huh?
And want to complain about that.
Right.
And say, well, you must be their boss. You're over the commissioner's court. That's not how that works.
Okay.
And we're all independently elected by the voters. That's who we answer to. And so I'm not the boss of the county. I think in a lot of ways, I'm a spokesperson for the county a lot. I think
Right.
I'm a visible part of county government because I kind of sit there as presiding officer, commissioner's court, elected countywide. But I'm not in charge of everybody. in the
Sometimes a
county,
punching
so-
bag.
That's right. That's right. For better or worse. And we have some really great elected officials. Our commissioner's court is phenomenal. We work together really well and have good proactive people. We have our appointed officials, emergency management, elections, public works, watershed, that are all appointed positions. We have gotten such a good team put together. We punch way above our weight on professional department heads. And
Obama just entered the chat. I guess it's like one thing that I remember Obama saying about I think the Netherlands or something. The Netherlands, hey, punch above their weight.
and I think too, when you look at intergovernmental relationships with county and cities, I don't think there's a mayor in the county that I could not call and ask for help on something.
That's wonderful.
with a project.
That's how it should be.
We don't agree 100%.
Yeah.
And it's just like city, school, county, we're all intergovernmental. We've all got our own projects, policies, philosophies, but and I could probably extend that to superintendents. But I feel really confident saying I could call any mayor in the county and say, hey, I need help with something. and they would figure out a way to team up with us, and that's how it should work.
Yeah.
And we're all here together.
Yep.
So,
That's why I'm loving doing these podcasts, because not just for us, but for everybody, it's a reminder that the people in your local government are just people.
and we
good people.
we live here too, and we're
Yeah.
taxpayers here too.
That's
You know?
exactly.
We're not just inflicting on somebody else in a different spot. Like, we're in this with you.
Yeah.
You know?
So get to know your people and understand where they're coming from, and that they want to do what's best for you and for themselves. And it's I think that's what the biggest message going forward is, to be involved, because you don't want activists taking over. You don't want disruptors taking over for the sake of just disrupting. Sometimes disruptions are good, but for the most part, they're just people making loud noises. And people that are everyday common human beings they see that and they shy away from being involved in their community. And then you just lose out that sector. And it's a corruption almost, right?
Yeah, and I would say too, and as a born and raised guy,
Mm-hmm.
I don't just think that you got to be born and raised here to represent this
No,
community.
Yeah.
But I also think if
I thought you were going somewhere total different when you said born and raised guy. I was like, what? Where are we going?
if you move here, don't move here and want to change who we
Right.
are.
Yeah, you're
Either
living here
exactly.
for a reason.
move here. You moved here because there's something you liked here.
Yes.
Most people I talk to, they didn't just find a random house. They liked something about this. There are other places they could be, and they chose to be here.
Right.
So move here, get to know us, get to know this community, engage in the community, learn our history, and want to be part of it.
Right.
Not, I'm going to move here and tell this county how it
Yeah.
was where I used to live.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, where I moved from.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
associated with
I
corruption
shut
to me,
down
too.
quick
It's the
on
same-
that,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say that. But let me tell you how it was where I came from. Well, but you came here, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, you're here
so,
for a reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so we welcome good new neighbors. I think all of us do.
Yeah.
But we want good new neighbors who want to be part of the community
Right.
and respect what this community is about and where we've been.
Mm.
So,
And engage. Be part of your community.
That's right.
Get political if you have to. It's
Yep.
totally fine. And you're not going to agree with everybody. I think you'd be surprised when you actually talk to a person face to face.
Yep.
That some things are more amicable than you would ever
Yep.
anticipate being behind a screen.
yep. So
and
much better
raging
to,
on a keyboard.
Yeah, sit down over a cup of coffee
Yeah.
at Trinity Street. I've gotten so much good work done at Trinity
Oh,
Street
yeah.
just by being able to sit down and talk to somebody
Yeah.
face to face.
Yeah.
You know, and understand where they're coming from and explain why maybe we're doing it a different
Well,
way.
it's almost a lost art, that whole sitting
Yeah.
down face to face thing.
It is. It is.
I mean, people can't do it no more.
And that's I appreciate what y'all are doing because, you know, number one, people don't understand a lot of their local government and what the functions are. But number two, just encouraging people to engage, and I know y'all do that.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
where. I'm sorry. Doc, is that Doc here?
No.
Interrupting? That's what I was going to say. I don't even know what I was going to say anymore.
It's like they handed you your award, and now they're
now
playing
get
you
the
off.
stage.
Yeah. So-
Get off. Yeah, get off the stage.
I think some people don't understand a lot of these positions are volunteer.
Yep,
Right.
You're right.
We're here, you know.
Wait, you're not making millions?
I'm
What?
not- yeah. And the thing, I'm, you know, mine's a full-time job and I'm paid to do it.
Right.
But you know, like what Cody's saying is a lot aren't. Like our school board people aren't. Our city
yeah.
councils aren't. Our
Yeah.
mayors aren't.
Yeah.
They're just volunteering and you know, and like I was, you're going in the evenings after you've been to work and
Yeah.
doing this, and it can be a thankless job. It shouldn't be a thankless job. We should appreciate the people that are stepping up to do that because gosh, if suddenly you don't have good people step up to do that, you notice it quickly.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
becomes very apparent.
So, are the meetings? We'll get into a little bit more of the talking about what your job does, and is all those meetings, are they open to the public? Or
Oh
no?
yeah,
Everything?
So,
Okay.
and one area that I'm excited for us to change and improve is we meet on the second and fourth Mondays at 9 a.m. And we've always been. I mentioned earlier that we've never had a commissioner's courtroom.
Mhm.
We have always gotten into a room that was just available at the time. It used to be a jury room. Then we were in a courtroom for a while when it was available. Now we're in the JP2 courtroom. So we've never had a home that we
Right.
could just set up properly as a commissioner's courtroom. We're going to have a dedicated meeting space in the restored courthouse, and we're going to have it set up and wired with streaming
Oh, nice.
capabilities. And we've never been able to do that before, and I think that's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody doesn't have time to go sit in a commissioner's court meeting. I get that, but you may want to go back and watch something in it, or say, "Well, I heard they were talking about water in this court. I want to go listen to that conversation," and be able to do that.
Yeah.
So,
oh, nice. Well, I think that's important. Good.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, sir.
Oh, now do you want me to hit the play button? I actually didn't mean to hit it earlier. I was trying to move this box out of the way.
I know. So is there anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap it up, or where people can find anything, Facebook pages, websites?
Yeah, so
where you're singing next? We didn't
where
get
I'm
into
singing
that.
next.
We can't leave this show without talking
That's
about
right.
the artistic side of Judge J.D. Clark.
You didn't know this, but you got to sing us a song. Oh, no,
You got a guitar? I got a.
We got a bass.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
got
yeah,
a
I got a
bass.
bass. Yeah. No, I sing. I write songs. I enjoy that. That's my.
That's one of my fondest memories of you. It was actually at Kevin Burns' house. We went over there for crawfish one night, and we got out of the truck.
right.
Yeah, and there was somebody up there on his patio singing and playing a guitar, and me and Chase go, "Who the heck is that?" We get up there, and I was like, "Holy crap! It's freaking JD, man!"
Yeah,
I had no idea.
were.
Yeah, I think it was
that's
you and
right.
Dakota.
Yep. I remember doing
I had no idea.
And my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time. I don't remember if we were engaged or not at the time. But anyway, she saw me eat crawfish for the first time and didn't leave me.
There you
So
go. You
I
knew
that
she was the one.
Yeah, exactly. There's no pretty way to eat crawfish.
No, there's
especially
not.
with a
There's
beard.
not.
No,
Is that a lobster in your beard, sir? Yeah, that's a mini lobster.
Mini
thing.
lobster.
I got the tail on that one.
But so going back to your question, I'm highly active on Facebook and try and keep people up with what we're working on. I've got a County Judge J.D. Clark page on there. A lot of people just add my personal one and follow on there. That's more my kids and
family.
and anything.
Yeah.
But and then we've got the Wise County Courthouse Restoration page that we're keeping updated. But it's a good time.
You have a music performance coming up at Brandy's.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
already sold out, isn't it?
Yeah,
You sold that thing out.
We did. Yeah,
Yeah, that was crazy. I didn't know nothing about it until hey guys, sold out. That's the first time I seen it. So.
Well, that was kind of a last minute thing, and because I don't do that much, I play at home all the time and play with and for my little girls, but every once in a while, like last Christmas, we did these videos where we were doing Christmas songs from the house. We're doing it again this year, and Brandy hit me up and she said, "Hey, what you want to do? Come play a show at the steakhouse." And that sounds fun. And so we posted it Friday night, and Saturday morning she messaged me and she said, "We've booked every table."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's fun.
That's flattering
And,
too.
Yeah,
But it's also a good way for people to engage with you as a musician, a
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
and
Official,
an elected official.
Yeah, exactly. So it's my hobby. I just like to I write songs and always writing new stuff. And I've actually this year been working on being more diligent about getting some of it recorded. And I
Okay.
think about it like from a dad perspective. Like I want my kids and my grandkids to be
Right.
able to listen to that at some point. So maybe sometime this next year I'll.
It's
put
also
some
a reason
stuff
we
out
kind
there.
of started.
So,
Of course,
yeah.
my background's music, but we kind of started this podcast. Doc and I were talking like, this is kind of a legacy we're leaving
Absolutely.
behind for our kids too.
We'll
And
see. We might be like
our kids might
we
listen to
don't
2
want-
episodes and go, "Wow, my dad was a jackass." But
Well, like you mentioned you finding those letters from your great grandfather. If you could listen to something they recorded talking about their thoughts back then, how
Yeah.
incredible would that be?
it would be
You know,
monumentally incredible.
and we've just got such different capabilities now that we should be saving that stuff, and it will matter to somebody.
Sure, yeah, it would change.
That's what we tell
somebody's life.
ourselves.
That's what we tell it every Sunday. That's what we get on here and say.
Yeah.
This podcast matters.
This will matter to somebody. They will find this in the courthouse attic next to the cereal boxes and the
and the tobacco cans.
tins.
Recorded material that you're working on. Do you have anything that's available out there?
No, not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. I've got a few things still to finish that I want to get down, and sometime in the next year I may drop that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Be looking forward to that.
Yeah. I may send you guys something early. So.
Okay.
There you
Oh,
go.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get early access.
Perks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perks of being a whiskey bro.
Got some local history stuff in there too.
Oh,
so,
nice.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
All right. Well, I think I've run out of questions. And
Taylorsville would be a great name for a song.
Oh my
Yeah, it
God.
would.
Taylorsville.
it's a great idea.
Boom.
Yeah. I like
right.
that. Now I'll have to give you a songwriting.
I know,
credit.
Now it's
right?
got to be a criminal
Yeah.
outlaw
Yeah.
element or something. But yeah, well, thanks for visiting
Yeah,
with
thank
us,
y'all
Judge.
for having me. I
It's been
appreciate it.
It's been
Yeah.
a great one.
Yeah.
We've got a few more of these coming up. I hope at least a few people are getting information from these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we're doing good. And like I said, it's been a great chat. And thanks again.
For sure.
Yeah, well, thank y'all for
And
having
thanks
me.
for all the
Yeah.
hard work
Yeah.
that you do for the county.
I
and for us
appreciate that.
As
Thank you.
county
Yeah.
residents.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening and good night.
Gracias por convivir con los hermanos Whisky.